Today is Monday, and on Monday we get ready for the week ahead. We are in the practice on this page of developing a discipline, where on Mondays we acknowledge our feelings. Those feelings may be feelings of grief, loss, potentially resentment. All those. And on Mondays, I facilitate and help us get into the discipline of acknowledging those feelings, that they exist, that they're real, and that sometimes they get in the way of us moving forward. And in particular, in the context of sometimes they get in the way of our relationship with money. And then sometimes that gets in the way of our relationship with people, or vice versa. So my topic for today, just for the next 5 minutes, is in our grief center, have some thinking about, is it a money problem that you're experiencing, or is it something else? Have an honest, authentic, wānanga with yourself. And I find it's helpful to sit quietly and go deeper. And when you say, no, it isn't, I have a money problem, or as soon as you hear yourself say, my husband spends too much, or my wife spends too much, or the kids are expensive, as soon as you hear any of those thoughts in your head, that's when I'd like you to pause and just do nothing else. Just pause and then ask yourself again, inside your head, obviously, is it a money problem, or is it something else? And I practice this all the time, and I pop the link above in the post so that I recorded today's reflection, my reflection on what that really sounds like for me and I have to work on it every week, every day, because the different conversations that come up in my mind about whose fault it is, or even if I have a problem, which I don't, in reality I don't, but I am, just like many of us, in the habit of different belief cycles, that there's a problem all the time, there's a problem. I have a habit from, say, 10 years of my sort of youth or my younger adult years of actually having conflict with money, or feeling like I was burdened with worrying about money all the time. Now, even though I've moved through those worries and through those problems, I still experience relapses all the time into a habit of feeling like there's a problem, no matter how much money there is. And so I know more than anybody else that feeling happy about and feeling secure about money is actually a feeling. And we have to practice having new feelings And so Mondays is my facilitated practice for you, for us together, to reprogram those conversations we have inside ourselves. Practice the discipline of new feelings. Over time, practicing taking grief or feelings of loss or resentment or difficulty or unhappiness around money, our relationship with money, and practicing putting them into a virtual space, even if it's just symbolically, or leaving your worries on Monday at Grief Centre, this is Grief Centre. This is just a virtual moment to remind you to let go. The practice of, or the habit of worrying and feeling terrible about your money will play out to be true because you've practiced the habit regularly, okay? And so holding on for as long as you can, whether it's 30 seconds at first, and the next week it might be a minute, and then the next week it might be 2 minutes, and then eventually half an hour, eventually a day, eventually a week, then a month, then half a year. Yeah? From practicing having different feelings about your resources and your finances. See, this is something we can all do, even without paying financial advisors or experts. We can reprogram our behavior, our thought patterns. And I've popped the link up to my podcast on Spotify. So if you're interested, you can listen to my reflections and the kind of struggles that I have regularly. These are my habitual thoughts that I have. Click on the link up top after our session today, and you'll hear me talking out loud, trying to get myself to hear the authentic, like the truth behind my resentments, grief, loss, or my relationship blockages with money and in control of money, and how I've had to arrive at the truth today, or regularly. Okay, now this practice of reflecting about what's really going on, is it a money problem, or am I covering some other issue that I don't want to talk about that comes from 20 years ago, things like that. Like I said, at first it used to only last for 30 seconds, 20 seconds, and then my cycles would repeat negative patterns again and again, every 30 seconds, every minute, and then it became every hour, and then it became half a day, yeah, and then it became a month. I could hold positive thoughts, or at least no thoughts about resentment, about how I felt someone was spending money to control me, to keep me working, all those kind of unhealthy habits of thinking. I now am free of those for up to 3 weeks at a time. And it is definitely freeing. And I had a coach who coached me through the practice of parking, symbolically taking away my loss, my hang-ups, my arguments, my resentments, and putting them here on Monday, and leaving them here. Leave them with me in this space, symbolically. And then saying, I'll come back for you next week. But right now I've got to get on with my work week, and I've got to move forward sometimes that moving forward only lasts a very short amount of time. And over time, I've increased that tolerance up to 3 weeks. And just recently, I've caught myself and found that I think I can go a bit longer. And I think I can go a bit longer because why is it 3 weeks? There's a pattern. And if we can understand patterns, we can retrain them, we can break those patterns, and we can create new ones. And so I think my pattern of 3 weeks is essentially around, you guessed it, the maramataka. My maramataka. Tinana. So this time I've been able to kind of catch it in time, and especially nourish myself, and especially water myself, like force myself to take in more water than I normally would. Not force, really encourage. Rest when I need a rest. Ask not to have certain types of conversations at the end of the day, but instead have them at times when I'm full, my cup is full, I'm rested. If I'm being conscious about this, especially on Mondays, when anxiety of a new week starts, I think I might be able to take it from 3 weeks to maybe 3.5, 4 weeks. And just catch my patterns, my habits of thought earlier. Okay. You can click on the link, go and listen to it on Spotify. It's a free episode. Just see if you can resonate with my process of reflecting on my own habits of thought and my reasons. But it's not really about my story. It's about you having that, creating that new pathway that is right and resourceful for you. And that represents your story. Okay? So let's hold it there. Reflect. Do you have a money problem, or is it something else? I'm asking you that when you ask yourself that question, is it something else? How you do it is you think about a tension or conflict you have with money at the moment. There isn't enough, for example. And then just notice the different bubbles of thought that pop up about why you have that problem. Who's to blame? Is it your wife? Is it your in-laws? Is it your teenagers? Is it countdown? Is it the cost of food? Whatever. And just when you think of those bubbles, just ask the question again. Or is it? Is it their fault? Practice asking that. Then when the other feelings come up, you might start feeling some of the true feelings. Loss, grief, resentment, anger, hunger. And I'd just like you to take notice of them. That's all. Give them space, give them light, and then leave them here on Monday with me in this virtual grief space. And my hope is that over the year we start to uncouple and unravel, untangle what we think are money problems, and actually we see them separate, and we've really got other problems. We can work on the emotions. You can work on that with us as coaches, my team and my program as coaches, and you can work on your money or your housing or your property, your dreams, separately, because these are quite rational goals. Want a house, want to save money, want to have more money. Those are quite rational. You can do those things. There's things we do to achieve that. But if you don't uncouple from the complexity that is our beautiful feelings and emotions, and if you're ever wondering why you just can never quite save money or never have enough, it might be because they're all raveled up together. So on Wednesday, I'll see you for our Hope Centre. Getting ourselves into the habit of just sparking some different, creating some new habits of thought related to hope around money and hope. Feeling really sparked with joy about your strategies, your goals, and your aspirations. And we'll just work on replacing our sort of undesirable habits of mind. You're welcome to click on the link above for my Spotify episode, my podcast, if you need to listen to it while you're driving. It's just a little bit of my processes of how I reflect on my relationships with money. I'm now at 3 weeks. I can go 3 weeks without having a negative thought about money now, but when I do, I still have outbursts. So look, I'm aiming to increase my rubber, like my stretchy little rubber band, and I'm hoping to go to months and then years, and then, that's the ideal. All the best, whānau. All the best, e te whānau. Practice leaving our old thought patterns behind on Mondays. Get ready for Wednesday's spark of hope, and then on Fridays we create. And creating is where we get to experience what wealth feels like. Because when we're free and when we're creative and when we're living in our natural state, expressing ourselves through identity or culture, that is where we get to be in touch with our whole self. And that is what wealth feels like. It's a security and a calmness. So we have to practice knowing what wealth feels like for us to be able to know how to get there. And when we get there, how do we hold on to it in our lives? Mauri ora.